By now, most of you know Skip Bayless is leaving FS1, or basically got fired, to keep it real with you. He had another year on his contract, but his last episode will be this summer. So he's not going to even fulfill his contract. There were rumors that the Undisputed would keep going, but then another report came out to basically say that they were probably gonna retire the name. And we don't really know if they're gonna continue with a debate show, but it doesn't look like Skip Bayless is gonna be part of FS1 at all. So with him not fulfilling the contract, you can pretty much say he got let go. In situations like this, a lot of times what happened is the ratings are low, which they were definitely low because they were doing less numbers. It was reported, I think a month ago, they were doing less numbers than even Get Up on ESPN. So when you're trying to compete with First Take and you're not even doing First Take numbers, you're barely competing with Get Up and other little shows on ESPN, and you're supposed to be the flagship show for FS1, yeah, the writing is pretty much on the wall. So this is one of the situations where Skip Bayless is a legend. We don't want to say he got fired, so we'll just say he's leaving the network. You know, you kind of respect people like that. You don't ever want to just be like, yo, we fired you. But he had another year on his contract and he basically got fired. Let's just do a little bit of revisionist history because we know Undisputed started in 2016. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know what Shannon would be like on a debate show coming from a football background, but he was really, really good. You know what I'm saying? Did a lot of research, was really, really good. Brought his own personality with the Club Shay Shay and the Goat James and all this kind of stuff, and basically became more of a fan favorite than even Skip Bayless, who brought him onto the show. So I feel like that pretty much took off. On the flip side, ESPN, they kept going with First Take, and it was pretty much Max Kellerman.
Mark Jackson was here saying Iggy's like good for great defense and 11 points. Every single one of Iggy's 11 points will kill you. High leverage moment, fate of the universe on the line. I want open shot, not go get it. I want Iguodala taking that shot for me.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap.
And that dynamic worked okay for a little while. It wasn't the same as the Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith dynamic, but I think Max, coming from a boxing background, I think he did his best. I think he was good at times. He was very, very good with racial issues like the Colin Kaepernick stuff and some of the other things that he talked about, but he definitely bumped heads with Stephen A. Smith. And the day that Terrell Owens was on the show basically saying Max Kellerman is more blacker than you, I pretty much knew it was the end of Max Kellerman on First Take.
What I wanted is transparency, Stephen A. And that's like I've done it. I've had incidents throughout the course of my career. And then there have been times where I've gone into interviews where I've done an hour and a half, 2 hours of an interview. And then they break down and they edit, and then you guys get on the show, and there's a panel of people, and then they break down whatever clips that they show. They're not showing the entire hour and a half or 2 hours of that interview that I've done. So what he wanted was transparency for people to see the full workout, to see the full Colin Kaepernick. Again, you mentioned obviously Max is going to get in here, and like I said, I'm in the streets. Max almost seems blacker than you, Stephen A. with his commentary.
With all due respect, my brother,
I'm just saying, dog.
Wait a minute. Wait to finish.
I'm just saying.
I'm gonna check you right now. You don't cross the line.
I'm just saying.
Time. Wait a minute. You don't cross the line.
During that time, Undisputed was doing very, very good numbers. It was competing very, very well with First Take and everything. So you had Skip and Shannon, and you had Max Kellerman, and you had Stephen A. Smith. We all know how this played out. Eventually, Max Kellerman leaves First Take, and then they kind of get like a round table of guests. And I felt like that wasn't really good for the show either. They just kept basically rotating people through. And I feel like the show is a little bit better when it has a standard guest, but they would just rotate different people through, from Jalen Rose to Tim Legler to Woj to Dan Orlowski, just different people depending on what the topic was. And it was cool, but you know, it wasn't the same dynamic as when it was Steven and it was Skip Bayless. So it was still missing something on that show. And at this time, Undisputed is flourishing. And then eventually there was some, you know, things that went on with Undisputed. We all know what came to a head with the Tom Brady discussion that led to Shannon Sharpe leaving the show.
Argument.
What do you mean that's my argument?
Your argument is that they're going to be in the playoffs. Is Tom Brady playing bad?
Okay.
Yes or
yes. No? Yes, he played poorly yesterday.
What do you mean yesterday?
Okay.
All year.
But you're giving him 100%
I
of the
did.
blame?
Because they
Well,
asked me the
that's
question.
just, you have no objectivity. It's just straight Brady hate. Wait a minute.
What you do, you take personal shots.
No,
when
I don't take personal
Hold on,
shots. You started it.
Time out. You would take a personal shot at me.
I didn't take a personal
time
shot
out.
at you.
Wait a minute.
What are you talking about?
You would take a personal
Put your glasses back on.
Shannon leaves the show, eventually joins First Take, and that was a good chess move for Stephen A. Smith because he realized Shannon was a big pillar in the community. People was rocking with him a lot, liking his commentary. He brings them on board a few days a week, and it was basically kind of like a direct shot at Undisputed. Undisputed made what I thought was a lot of mistakes since then after Shannon left of trying to regroup. So they took time off. They didn't do a show for a couple months. When they came back, the first thing you noticed, they didn't have a moderator at all. Like Skip was moderating.
Let me say good morning to anyone out there who stayed up to watch all of Team Canada versus Team USA last night right here on FS1.
Now, why is that a problem? When Skip is moderating, he would introduce the topics and then he would basically they had Richard Sherman, they had Michael Irvin, they had Keyshawn Johnson. So all of those people have a football background. So one of the mistakes that I feel like they made was Skip Bayless is basically the star of the show. He's the star of the show, but as the moderator, you have to introduce stuff and then allow other people to kind of take it from there. So the first thing you notice with the way Undisputed moved forward post Shannon Sharp was that Skip talked less and less, which was not a good thing because he's the star of the show. Like the show is built around him. But you found yourself listening to Michael Irvin, Richard Sherman, Keyshawn Johnson more. And I thought that was a big mistake. They needed a moderator. They didn't have one. And Skip was trying to moderate and give his takes. And I definitely feel like that didn't work. And Richard Sherman got a DUI. And he basically was taken off the show. We actually haven't seen Michael Irvin in a while. I'm not really sure what happened with that. So when you add all of that up, those are two pieces that came on the show pretty quickly and left. I think Michael Irvin might be gone just because it moved on to basketball season. But you never had a basketball host. You never had somebody come on with a basketball background until they hired Paul Pierce. And I feel like before that time, before the Paul Pierce hiring, that was a big mistake as well, because Keyshawn Johnson, in my personal opinion, is one of the worst sports analysts for basketball. He's just one of the worst. Like a lot of his takes, in my opinion, don't make a lot of sense. And I felt like some of the topics that they would talk about was just like stuff that wasn't even really that important. Like everything was built around LeBron like it always was, which clearly kind of like made Skip who he is, like the trolling of LeBron, but also it kind of got a little bit old. And Keyshawn, in my opinion, they just had dumb topics.
LeBron to Michael Jordan, but he doesn't jump like Michael. Michael's not dunking. In fact, I don't even remember if I've ever seen LeBron posterize somebody. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen him. I've seen Jordan posterize people. I've seen Dominique. I've seen Kobe. I've seen Drexler. I posterize, meaning, I don't think I've ever even seen LeBron really he may have one
I think he's
or two.
Annihilated people before. Just annihilated. I don't know if there's a signature.
I don't know because I don't remember.
So this is the problem when you have only football analysis on. You didn't have anybody really from the basketball and the basketball world to kind of give analysis. Another problem was boxing has been kind of a big thing. There's been a couple really big fights lately, and over the years there's been big fights, but they never added a boxing person to the show. I kind of feel like Undisputed should have hired Max Kellerman when he got fired from ESPN. They should have brought him over here. That would have been a good kind of boxing person, because there's been some pretty big boxing matches that Kellerman could have gave his expertise on, but they didn't really have a boxing expert. Eventually they hired Rachel Nichols. Eventually they hired Paul Pierce.
Welcome in Rachel Nichols, who has a wealth of experience in this business, covering basketball and football and baseball and hockey and golf and tennis for the Washington Post and Turner and ESPN. And now she's on our team here at FS1. Good morning to you, Rachel.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome in.
I got the mug to prove it. I'm official now.
But it was just too late. it was just definitely too late. I never understood why Lil Wayne was on the show. I get it. He's a rap icon. I grew up listening to Lil Wayne. I rock with him heavy, but you know, he's not a sports analyst, and he really didn't really add any real expertise to the show. He didn't really break down anything. He just had his people that he rocked with, whether it was the Packers or certain sports team he rocked with, but he really gave you no real analysis. And I felt like there was even a rumor that Skip Bayless was going to try to get Lil Wayne to actually be the host. But he would bring Lil Wayne on, and Lil Wayne wouldn't have anything logical to really add to the show.
Yeah, it's me, man.
I am.
Yeah, it's me.
It's real.
If the Lakers want to be a championship team, and the future as well.
Yes.
You got to get rid of AD.
Woof. Got to get rid of AD.
Got to get rid of AD
Because
he AD.
So as you can see, Undisputed was just falling by the wayside with the numbers. What started out as like, you know, we're kind of excited. Okay, we got Richard Sherman, we got Michael Irvin, we got Keyshawn Johnson. It started out kind of exciting because the football season was here and you kind of had three, you know, some good experts on it. But by the time it rolled around to basketball and stuff like that, you really didn't have anything to get out of Undisputed, to be honest with you. You wasn't really getting anything out of the show. At this time, Shannon and Stephen A. Smith are flourishing on ESPN. They're flourishing. You know, Shannon still has his Club Shay Shay podcast. Stephen A. Smith has his podcast. Skip has his podcast. But even his podcast wasn't really doing numbers. Slowly but surely, it kind of seemed like people was just getting tired of Skip Bayless. He kept trolling LeBron. He had a lot of like weird takes sometimes about different stuff. And another big problem that he has, he used to always say that he doesn't follow anyone on Twitter. I think that sometimes that was a mistake because you need a little bit of interaction in today's world. Like I think he got away with it before, but he was actually kind of like one of the first debaters in this the way sports debate is now. And I think he got away with it. And as people caught up to him, he wasn't able to normalize himself with fans. When you look at Shannon kind of came on, he talks to fans, he goes to events, he builds relationships, he has his podcast, he has Nightcap, he has Club Shay Shay, he's on Undisputed. When people feel like they can reach out and touch you, they tend to want to rock with you a little bit more. I think Skip Bayless, another mistake he made is he stayed too closed off. He wasn't on social media, he wasn't following people, he would put out a tweet, get 1 million responders, he would never respond. And I'm not saying you have to respond, but it's just like he never had any social media interaction. And I think that's one of the things that hurt his podcast because he wasn't even online to promote his show the way he should. Also, I don't really feel like he had any real relationships in the industry. When you look at it, who does it? You always hear people be like, oh, well, I talked to this NFL player. I talked to this basketball player. You think I don't talk to GMs? You think I don't this? For someone of Skip Bayless, like the power he has at FS1, it seemed like he didn't really have any real connections with a lot of stuff. Like every now and then he might throw out some type of Spurs connection he has. If you want to talk about Kawhi Leonard and the injuries he used to have, he really didn't have any real background stuff that he can just point to and say, yo, I spoke to this person and this person and this person, and this is what they're saying. I think sometimes that's what Steven and Shannon has over him, is they have relationships that I don't think Skip has cultivated, to be real with you. So he ends up adding Rachel Nichols. He ends up adding Paul Pierce. It was too little too late. I think if he had started Undisputed with maybe like Keyshawn Johnson, Michael Irvin, Rachel Nichols, Paul Pierce, I think it probably would have went a lot further. But you adding them late, but you added them after the ratings was terrible at this point. You know what I'm saying? What we hear now is that he's leaving, but probably behind the scenes, they probably been on his ass a lot about this show and how bad it's been. And anytime you have a lot of jumble and a lot of this and that and hiring this person, it just signals that things just aren't working out. And some people may have gotten tired of Skip Bayless also because everybody don't want to talk about LeBron, bro. Everybody don't. Now it's Bronny James and is analyzing this.
Kid's got a backbone. Kid's got guts. Kid's got principle and character. His parents did a good job raising him. I think he'll be more calm, cool, and collected in the eye of next year's storm than even his father will be.
Is this a fucking joke? Somebody tell me this is a fucking joke. Tell me, somebody.
Like everything is about LeBron said this and he said this and this is the picture he tweeted and he's sitting next to this and this. Like everybody's not going to be interested in that kind of commentary, and the lack of diversity in topics was probably one of the most damaging things that FS1 had. When you add all that up, I think Skip Bayless is actually done. ESPN already reported that they're not interested in a reunion between Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, so I kind of think that it's done. And I don't know where Skip goes from here. If you're not on FS1 and you're not on ESPN, like where are you going to work at? You know what I'm saying? Like there's other networks, but you would be downgrading, and it didn't really make sense for you to downgrade. Even on FS1 right now, I kind of think First Things First is the best show over there. So he has a lot of like competition. That show is better than Undisputed. First Take is better than Undisputed. So I think Skip moving forward will probably just focus on his YouTube channel or just retire. You know, you got to think he's really, really old at this point. He's made a lot of money. He doesn't really have to do this anymore. And I think all of the competition, because everybody outlasted him, bro. Everybody outlasted him. He put Stephen A. Smith on. Stephen A. Smith is about to probably sign a contract from $90 or to $100 million. Skip Bayless was only making $8 million at FS1. Stephen A. Smith was trying to make $20 million over here at ESPN. So he outlasted Skip Bayless. Shannon Sharp has blew up even more since the Cat Williams interview and all this kind of stuff. He got put on by Skip and basically outlasted them too. And I think when you add all that up, sometimes that stuff takes a big hit on your pride. And that's why we see the end of Skip Bayless. The numbers say what it is. And I think his inability to adapt in today's era was his biggest downfall. Unbiased Sports Review, holla at your boy.